Welcome to One More Game presented by Pickleball. I'm your host, Matt Brandenberger, and this is our little spinoff. You see Ryan Kearns with me again. Hi, Ryan. How you doing?
Hey, doing all right. Just enjoying vacation.
That's right. Ryan is a PE teacher for Fort Wayne Community Schools, and so he is in the midst of a 2-week break. I will say it's been a little different. This is my first year in like 20 being out of education, and so not having that nice little 2-week break over the holidays has been a little different. But I am enjoying getting Ace Pickleball. See my shirt there, getting that ready to go. Ryan is on board with us. We've got opening coming up here. I think I can say this now because we did get our clearance, our certificate of occupancy. So this may be the first some people hear, maybe even Ryan, the first you've heard, but the 17th we are saying is now going to be our opening day. The couple days before that, we're going to have like a friends and family day and then a members day as well. So those will be good opportunities for people to check out. So January 17th, Ace Pickleball should be open and we're ready to go.
Well, this is breaking news. We need some sort of sound,
Right.
coming in with breaking news or
yeah, there you go. I might be able to put that in the post.
ESPN score alert or something now.
Yeah.
The bottom line.
So yeah, we're super excited about that, but it has been a little different not having that 2-week break. So glad you're still enjoying yours, Ryan. At least one more day, right? This is your last official day of break until you go back Monday.
Day. Yep.
That's right. And it's also football season. You can see I'm in my office, got my Colt stuff to the side of me here. Can't point, looking the wrong way. But Ryan, you're a Cowboys fan. It's been a good year for your Cowboys. Are you pretty excited about the playoffs coming up?
Yeah, I think Sunday is almost like a de facto playoff game in some regards, because I think if they can get the 2 seed, then they maybe have a legitimate chance to make a run. If they choke to the Commanders, then have to do it the hard way on the road. So
yeah, we won't get too deep into. I'm like kind of a Cowboys hater. I'm just going to be honest, and it's not you, but I feel like I have several friends that are very obnoxious Cowboys fans, and so I always take a little bit of joy when they tank in the playoffs. So not that my Colts can really talk much better. We've been for years we were a team that did great in the regular season, but
playoffs. I don't think there's too many closet Cowboys fans. They're pretty much out there, and yeah, they probably let you know whether they won or didn't win or
you're actually about the most mild of the Cowboys. I never watched a game with you, but maybe I haven't heard you get too obnoxious with it. So anyways, so this is our spinoff podcast. This is session 2 of Bang Dink Ow. Gotten rave reviews about the name. I think from a few people anyways. Thought it was fun, but had a great time with session 1. We picked apart my game. I wish I could say that it's transformed me into a 5-5 player and I'm on my way to being a pro, but not really the case. I also had a little bit of a knee injury that I've been nursing. So that's kind of been a little setback as well. But I did feel like I learned some stuff. When I was on the court, I was so much more conscious about being on the right side. So today we're going to look at my better half, and we're going to look at Abby's game. We have a game that we're going to show you here in a little bit. And we're going to kind of pick apart her game. I love having Ryan on because he's going to be able to say things that maybe I couldn't, or maybe Abby wouldn't listen to.
Good point.
So I did not feed Ryan any of this stuff. This is all his own thoughts. But it's going to be cool to kind of look at that. But just a quick little plug for everybody else out there. We've done mine. We're doing Abby's today. I'm sure at some point we can look at Ryan's tape, although he doesn't make nearly as many mistakes as we do. But down the road, we're going to need more content. So please send us your videos, just a YouTube link, or reach out to us. We can figure out how to get the video from you if you have a file. But HoosierPickleball@gmail.com. Send those to us. We'll start trying to get some more people. Would love to have people from all over the world send us videos that we could look at your game, give you a few tips, look at the good, the bad, and the ugly, and kind of give you some things to think about.
Hey, going back to your video real quick with your knee and everything. If it's not 100%, maybe it could be a blessing in disguise and force you to stay home a little bit more on the right side with limited mobility and think more about your position.
Absolutely.
Just a thought there.
No, I like that. I played one game yesterday, just with some guys at work, just kind of laid back game. And I tried, you know, thinking about that. I was like, well, I'm just going to use this as an opportunity to even work on my transition zone. I'm only going to take a step or two in at a time. And yeah, you can always be working on something, even if you're not at your full, mobility. And like you said, sometimes a blessing in disguise, maybe slowing me down could be a good thing.
Yep.
But, all right, well, let's do this. Let's take a quick break. We'll get the video set up, and when we come back, we will break down Abby's game. We'll see you right after this.
Parents, your teen driver or soon-to-be driver looks to you for guidance on safe driving techniques.
Drive Alive is an organization dedicated to young driver safety. Visit our website at drivealiveindiana.org to view videos designed to facilitate conversations between parents and their teen drivers.
Topics include getting to know your vehicle, understanding car insurance, simple car maintenance, and what to do if you just had an accident.
Visit drivealiveindiana.org to learn more.
All right, welcome back to one more game. And bang, ding, ow. Sometimes hard to say, or just BDO. We like to say that. We are looking today at Abby Brandenberger, my wife's game. And here is a rec game that was played, I believe, just about a week ago. And Ryan, this was during my injury time where I didn't come at all. But Ryan, you were here, and in fact, you played a couple games with Abby, and we contemplated using one of those games. But I think the fact of the matter is, we won't say who your opponents were, but I think you guys won 11-0 from what I hear. And I think you even said Abby made very few, if any, mistakes, and it was maybe not a great game to look at. So we chose one where she made lots of mistakes.
Very true. Yeah, it was 11-0, and I think I said something along the lines to Abby like, well, if you want us to just pat you on the back for the entire time, we could use that video, but that's not necessarily going to help your game.
Right. Yeah, she was actually in favor of that, but no, she wanted us to use one where we could kind of look at some more stuff. So just to set this up here, in the foreground serving is Jen, and her partner is Peggy in the black with the knee brace. It doesn't help that there's three people wearing black here, so we'll identify them early. Peggy is in the knee brace there in the foreground on Jen's team, and then on the opposite side, Abby is the returner, and she's back in the back on the left, and then Sally is up front on the right on Abby's team. So
and Sally, I believe, has a visor on, which in case you can't see, she has either a visor or a hat on, I think.
Okay.
So in case you can't see Abby or Sally or differentiate because of their black, and that might be an easy tell on that one.
Sure. So all four are right-handed, nothing too just like that to report that would be abnormal. All four solid players play together a fair amount. Sally and Peggy both have a very strong tennis background. I think Jen is a volleyball player, and Abby was just Abby, athlete. Soccer, basketball, you name it. So that you definitely see some of the tennis coming out in the other two ladies throughout this as well. So
yeah, one quick note before we start. Sorry to interrupt, and I might steal your thunder later on, but I think one thing to note with Abby in the receiver's position, and she does this an awful lot throughout this game. She starts back really deep, and that's a good thing. You can see the green tarp behind her, like she pushes back into it to make sure she's got enough space on the other lady's serve, so that she has plenty of room to return a deeper serve and come in. And it's also just a good point for beginners. It's always easier to have to move forward on a shorter serve than have to back up from the line if they hit a deeper serve, to have the momentum going forward. So that's one thing that she does continuously throughout the video, is she finds that tarp and she starts as deep as she really can.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good point. In this venue that we're playing at, I think there's only about 5-6 feet, something like that. So you really do need to maximize that space. But that's something that I think a lot of people do probably take for granted. And one piece of that is Abby's quickness and athleticism allows her, even on a short return or short serve, to be able to get to it. Where there's probably some players that feel like if they start too far back, they may not be able to get to a short serve. So that
Sure.
kind of helps her out there as well. All right, so we'll play it out. This first point, pretty good job. But here's what I want to ask you, Ryan. And this is actually not to get into some of Abby and I's discussions right away, but this ball right here, if I can pause it, I missed my pause there, but let me try one more time. If I pause it right where the point of contact is, this ball's coming in and Abby is still kind of getting set. So I really would argue that she should have been set, right off the paddle. Probably should be set there. This is a ball I really want to see Abby let bounce as she makes the transition. We talked about this a lot lately on the podcast, talking about that fourth shot and letting that ball bounce when you can. Do you think that's one she may have been better to let bounce?
I think it could go either way on that. I think in this particular situation, based on where Jen and Peggy were, I do like the fact that she tried to take it out of the air, because I think she had a better opportunity to keep Jen at least, because it looked like it was going cross court to Jen. Keep Jen in the transition zone, whereas if she let that ball bounce, they would have been able to get in closer, and she would have essentially had to just concede her position of advantage by just dinking the ball to them softly and giving them a free pass to the kitchen. I think this was a chance to potentially make them play a fifth from the transition zone and see what happens versus having them hit their fifth shot from the kitchen line or pretty close to the kitchen line.
Yeah. And I think my only pushback on that is the reason I think they've hit a great third shot. I mean, she's trying to hit the shot essentially from her ankles. So I think it would take a pretty good little roll. It's gonna, at the very least, she's gonna be popping that up, right? I mean, it might catch them in the transition zone, but they're gonna have at their skill level, a pretty easy shot. It's not like she's attacking into the transition zone, I guess is my thought. I don't know. We kind of go back and forth on that. Abby likes to take, and you'll see that, a lot of balls out of the air. And my tendency is to more let it bounce. I feel like it gives you more time to make a decision, even try to react to what your opponents are doing as well. But we'll see that more throughout, but just something to kind of keep an eye on.
No, I definitely see your point, and I think a lot of the one factor to factor into that on the fourth is to play to your strengths. Like if that was Peggy in Abby's position, where Peggy can take balls off the bounce and drive them and roll them, and that's where she's more comfortable. Like if that was Peggy in Abby's spot, I would say, go ahead and take it off the bounce and drive it. Same with you drive your forehand. Not that Abby doesn't drive her forehand, but I think in that case, I think she was in a good spot to possibly, just kind of roll it back and hopefully keep it
back a little bit. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. This next point, we'll let this play out here. You can see the decent rally. Really, what we want to say here, though, is what, Ryan? It's going to be a theme throughout.
Yeah, Abby and Sally need to get in, or at least one of them, the person not hitting the third shot or the fifth shot or the seventh shot or the ninth shot, in so many of these cases, need to be able to come in and put a little more pressure on Jen and Peggy, because they're just hitting balls from back there. I mean, you might be able to see on our screen there with the green of the tennis court. The green is not even to the kitchen yet. And a lot of times Abby and Sally are back in the green, well behind the kitchen line, having to play these shots. Obviously, if you pop one up and it's a total green light ball overhead for Jen or Peggy, no, you're not coming in. But if it's a high backhand or just a yellow ball, which maybe it's around the waist level or something that they're just going to roll, One person for sure should be able to sneak in a little bit on that one.
Yeah, and as I let the next 2 points play out there, you could see they did a much better job getting in, and they ended up winning those 2 points. So it's amazing how many times when they're able to get in, they were winning more points. When they were staying back, they were losing the points. Simple, but we'll kind of get into some of the more mechanical things and things that we'd like to see them improve on, or really focusing on Abby. But in some ways, Sally was doing the same thing too. So we'll look at a couple areas for her to improve as well. Next point there, you see Abby just dumped one in the net. That would be another thing that saw, 3 or 4 just kind of unforced errors like that. And those are going to happen in a game. But to get you to that next level, those are the things you have to eliminate. Those need to come, once every 3 or 4 games, not 3 or 4 times in a game. And when we're talking about the things like missed returns, missed serves, dumping a third into the net, that's just a pretty simple return. And that would be one thing. Easier said than done. And count your mistakes some game, but that's actually a great thing to do, is try to keep track of how many mistakes you're making and see if you can kind of bring that level down. I guarantee when you bring those unforced mistakes down, you're going to see your wins go up. You're going to see your level of play go up, because so many times, how many times do you miss a serve and you think, oh, well, it was just a serve. Well, that might have been the beginning of a 5-point run that you were getting ready to go on. So you have to think in terms of limiting those mistakes to really elevate your game.
True. Yeah. Unforced errors. And then, like you said a second ago, a missed serve. And to me, a missed serve sometimes has a ripple effect, in that if my partner misses a serve as the first server, and now I'm the second server, I get very conservative with my serve now. And it gives the receiver almost a free pass at a return. Maybe I shouldn't do that, but I also know I can't afford to miss my serve if my partner just missed their serve. So, like I said, it's got a little trickle down effect with, putting us a little more on the defensive than we should be.
Yeah. We'll let this next point play out. Watch the way these ladies get in. You can see Peggy was getting in well. Jen's coming in now as well. Her momentum is bringing her forward with every shot, and they get to the line pretty well in about 5 shots, and they get into a nice little dink rally. But I want you to watch the end of this point and see an opportunity for an ATP. And Jen really almost hit this ATP. And I'll just say, not bagging on the ladies around here, but it's kind of a running joke in our area that there's not many ladies, or even our highest level ladies, don't really look for ATPs. And Jen has one on her paddle here, but look at how high she hits this. She's hitting this at knee level, maybe even slightly higher. And this is pushed wide enough. If she would have given this, even 1 more second, she missed it, by inches. And could have been an easy one. And in fact, she almost could have gone to the backside of Abby if she lets that thing bounce out. And people think about hitting them from the dinking position. You should be hitting that ball just inches off the ground. And that's going to give you the ability to get that ball lower, and it's going to give you a wider angle to get into the court there.
Yeah. And kudos to Jen for giving it a try and having it on her radar, where a lot of the people would have just done a cross court reset or something. But as you said, if Jen lets that ball travel out to the tennis singles sideline, which it was definitely tracking, it gives her an easier angle to make the shot. But she just barely missed the shot. So that was a good attempt by Jen.
Great point, and just noticing that. I think there's so many times that it's not even on, especially for the ladies that have played tennis. An ATP is not something that rarely happens, I guess, in tennis.
Yeah.
So it's not on anybody's mind who comes from that tennis background. Next point, again, one of the things we're talking about, a missed serve. There's missed serves and then there's missed serves. This thing almost hit the tennis net. It actually bounces out. So that's, I don't know, a lack of focus. It's a rec game. Abby'd say, come on, I'm just playing, not trying to take it too seriously, but those are the ones you don't want to miss. And again, Sally there kind of patting herself on the face, knowing that she missed a pretty easy shot there as well.
Yeah, and once again, that's a tough sequence for Abby and Sally, where their opponents had to hit one ball to get the side out. So you had a missed serve, then you had a made serve, but a missed third. So the opponents hit one ball, just one return, and they got a side out.
Yeah. As we let this point play out, this was a really good long point, maybe the best point of the match, in all honesty. You had some good insights on this. I can rewind it anywhere you'd want me to go. It ends with Jen maybe trying to think about that ATP again, miss it in the same spot, I think. But what did you like about this point, Ryan?
So I like the fact that it was a good lob choice when it was hit, because there are times when given, I believe it's Peggy that hits the lob here in a second. Yeah. Wait. There we go. Okay, yeah. So she was a little bit off balance, because there's times where she's hit a lob where her feet are set, and it's like, well, why'd you hit a lob? Your feet are set. So she did a good job hitting a lob. It was right between Abby and Sally, which forced both of them off the net, as opposed to just one of them off the net. So Peggy and Jen were able to take control of the net. But then this was one of the times where at some point, Abby and Sally were able to get back in. They weren't stuck back in the green. Like, Peggy had a nice roll there, kept Sally back, nothing really to come in on, another deep ball. But now it's a little bit shorter. So now boom, Abby's actually into the blue. And it tightened the window that Jen had. Like, if Abby's not in the blue there, Jen's got a free pass to put the ball at Abby's feet, and she's probably not going for the line. But since Abby came in and squeezed, it's a tighter window for Jen to put it in, and Abby forced the error on that.
Yeah. The other thing, just to go back one more time, not to spend too much time on this point, but I think you mentioned earlier you liked Abby's poach here, coming over to the middle and taking
right there.
that.
Yeah.
And you like that because Sally kind of retreated back a little bit. She had come off of her line. You can see she's back in the green, probably halfway into the transition zone. So Abby, recognizing that, stepped up and poached that with her backhand. And then, if I'm correct here, then did she even stayed up there and hit her forehand?
Yeah, that was another point I had. So yeah, a lot of times people are like, oh, well, middle person's forehand gets it. No. Like, Abby was 3 steps closer to the kitchen line than Sally was, and the ball's also coming cross court. So Abby is naturally hugging middle, because Sally has to kind of hold her line. So Abby picked the first one off with her backhand to buy a little time for Sally. And even though the ball was still sitting like middle-ish, or maybe even slightly Sally's side, Abby had the time to step around, hit a forehand. She hit it cross court, so that keeps Sally a little more involved and doesn't like pull them apart. Also, if Abby would have gone down the line with that forehand, now Abby's got to scramble, 3 steps to her right to cover her line. So by stepping around and hitting a forehand, that was a good shot selection, and the location of her next shot to minimize the recovery movement of both she and Sally was another good choice.
Yeah. Here's another example of Sally and Abby just too far back in the transition zone. So their third shot comes in here. It was a good return. So Peggy doing a nice job of kind of targeting Sally's backhand, keeping her back. Sally came in a little bit, but here is one where they should be moving in a little bit more. And then again, Sally's backhand is targeted by Peggy, and she leaves it in the net. So get in sooner. Don't let your opponents keep you back there, even stealing a step or two. Really important.
Yeah. Anytime your third, fifth, seventh, whatever it is, bounces, at least one member of the team's got to get in and close some ground there. And I know I referenced earlier that Peggy does a pretty good job of taking balls off the bounce or short hop and rolling or driving her forehand, keeping opponents back. But that was a situation when it bounced that somebody could have come in. Probably easier for Abby to come in. I think she was a little bit closer. And also, if it's the cross court person, then that makes it a little more difficult for Peggy's ball off the short hop, that Peggy has to go over the high part of the net down the line.
Got it. This next one, wanted to highlight a good return of Abby's, and I'm not sure if it's a miss hit because it was kind of a deep and she got kind of pulled off, so it wasn't like she was really setting up for this. But watch the height on this return, and it was fairly deep, not quite as deep as it could be, but the good thing about the height of it allowed Abby to get in. Ryan, talk about the importance of that on your returns.
Yeah, that's something I do talk about a little more with maybe beginners or people that aren't as mobile with their returns as far as putting some air underneath it so they can actually have a chance to get to the kitchen line on their return. But in that situation, I think Abby's right foot's still maybe even touching or close to touching that green tarp when she makes contact with the return, and by getting height and decent depth, that does buy her time to get in and close the window, because if she just hits a ball on a line drive to the middle of the court, Peggy probably rolls that forehand at Abby's feet in the green, and it's a pop up or an error.
Not to harp on it too much, but here's another example of a point that Sally and Abby are just kind of stuck back. I mean, credit Jen and Peggy for putting pressure on them and keeping them back, but again, we want to see you trying to move in a little bit more. Yeah,
and especially that like I said, we've seen it 2 or 3 times now. It wouldn't hurt even on a ball that's a little closer to me in a green ball, one person come in and at least take a chance. Maybe they hit it at you, maybe they don't. I mean, some people aren't going to hit it at that near person, even if it's a green light ball, because they don't think they can put it away. So if it's not working with 2 people way back, I think sometimes you got to roll the dice and let's just see what happens with one person coming in. And okay, if you get blown up, then okay, maybe we don't do that again. But if maybe you like I said, you narrow the window that they have, and make them change their mind on a shot possibly.
Yeah. In this next point, you see Jen. Actually, I like her spot here. She really kind of finds the middle, but and this is where pickleball is so tough. It's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. But we compliment Abby on poaching earlier when Sally's a little back. But here, I think the difference is Abby is back as well. They're almost on level with each other. And Abby then sticks her backhand in here and misses into the net, where she probably should have let that one go and let Peggy, let Sally. Yeah. Let Sally reset that.
Yeah, definitely on that situation, since they were both like in the green of the tennis court there. And that's kind of something that I think comes when you play with somebody a little bit more. Like when you're somebody like Abby that gets to a lot of balls and is pretty scrappy and can get, return stuff at her feet. I think sometimes you kind of put the Superman cape on and try to get everything. Whereas if you're familiar with where your partner might be, that Sally has a little extra time in that situation to probably get that back. Yeah. So it's a little bit of difference. The other situation last time where they were a little more neutral, they were kind of defensive. So if you're defensive, probably allow the back person to get it, because now they're allowed a little more time to react to that ball and playing it off the bounce, and it's probably doesn't have as much velocity on it. Whereas before they were a little more neutral, trying to get an advantage. So Abby picking off a higher ball, like with a volley, was the right play. But since it was more defensive, let the back person get it.
Yeah. Again, not to harp on mistakes, but just to kind of show you how when you really look at video, these add up. There's a missed return by Abby that she knows. I like that she's trying to push it deep, but missing that long, it's just a free point for the opponents. Here was a nice example of just placement over power. You've probably heard on this pod before, I love the 4.0 to pro guys, and they talk about, I always say placement over power. They say pace or placement over pace.
Pace, yeah.
And so Sally really just kind of moves it around here. First she goes to Jen wide, then she sees Peggy squeeze in middle, and she just places it. She hits a winner with hardly any pace, just by moving people around and finding the open space on the court. It's beautiful.
Yep.
Let me skip ahead here to another point that was good. This is at 7-11, Ryan, where we have good serve by Peggy, but Sally doesn't really need to hang back. She kind of gets stuck back there again. And then you mentioned about Abby's good dig, and you liked her paddle position here. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, Sally really ideally should be in, but right there with Abby, since Abby was off the kitchen line and Jen's got an attackable ball that she's going to hit down, Abby gets her paddle down in a defensive position for the reset. Because so often in pickleball you hear paddle up, paddle up. Well, it's true, but paddle up is more of a situation when you're at the kitchen line and you're going to get attacked or a speed up's going to come at you. Paddle up because they're probably going to hit your hip, your shoulder, something like that. They're not going to be able to like find your feet at the kitchen line. Whereas in that situation, Abby's off the kitchen line. So much like a volleyball player digging, you're going to have the paddle down. And if they end up hitting it a little higher or harder, more at Abby's waist, it's an easy adjustment to go from down to up and bring her paddle up to defend it, versus having to start up and then all of a sudden you drop it down. So starting down in that position is perfect position.
Yep. I like the seesaw analogy. Is the ball is up, your paddle goes down.
Yep.
The ball's down, your paddle goes up. Kind
Yep.
of thinking in those terms. Here's just again, I'm being maybe a little harsh, but just is a simple example of when you leave the ball too high, you allow your opponent to get attacked there. So there's just no need. Abby's kind of rushing up on this one, and I feel like she's trying maybe too much of a roll, just kind of concede a little dink there. She just left it a little high, I guess. We all make those mistakes.
Yeah, that might have been a situation where with the shorter return, maybe her initial thought was, well, I'm dropping. Well, wait, it's a little shorter return. Maybe I can push it, roll it a little bit deeper and be aggressive with it. And Jen covered the ground and she left it up and it didn't work out.
Abby on this point had a really nice lob. They get to the kitchen there and they're going to win this point, right? But Abby missed it out. So she even dropped her paddle. I think she's tired of her mistakes at this point as well. She's thinking, where's Ryan? Where's my 11-0 game we just won? But here's my question on this. I mean, we all miss these as well, but would a drop be better here? You can see Peggy's still kind of retreating. She's back. It looks like you're going to attack this. I like just a little dink drop there. Peggy's probably not going to get there. Most people are not going to get there. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, like personally, yeah, I probably would have dropped it or tried the angle she did. But once again, I think you have to work with your strengths and not gonna nitpick. But there's a lot of people that don't have a drop shot in their tool bag.
Yeah,
and it's not a shot they practice very often. Not trying to sound sexist, because it applies to even some guys without movement, but a drop shot can be very effective in women's.
All right, so let's go look at one of the next points here, and just an example here of after this rally, you see an overhead that Abby has. And the one thing, Ryan, and I am awful, it's something I need to drill as well. And so maybe Abby and I'll go drill with each other at Ace here once it opens up our overheads. I feel like Abby's form here looks really good, but then she almost gets a little too square and doesn't really snap her wrist. You've talked before about like it all should almost be like a outfielder on a tag up play, kind of coming forward and snapping. She's kind of moving to the side and doesn't really get under it quite as well.
Yeah, when you do have time in an overhead, if you can get back on it first so that you have a little bit of momentum coming forward, hitting it, you get a little more power and usually a little more control. And on that one, I think her contact point was maybe about even with her body rather than out in front. So she kind of had to muscle it with her shoulder versus being able to kind of have the whole like kinetic chain with her arm and the snap.
Yeah, and with Abby's mobility, I'd like to see her get in a better position, use her athleticism to get under it quicker, get set up, and then really, like you said, snap it and put a little more power into it. I just feel like her overheads don't match her athleticism sometimes.
Yeah.
I would say the same thing about myself.
But athleticism and overheads aren't necessarily connected in a way. I mean, I think I haven't like played catch with Abby, so I haven't seen her like throw a ball. But I mean, a lot of times when I used to work with my high school tennis players, we'd get out Nerf footballs during the conditioning and play catch, and from that, a lot of times I could see who had the potential for having a good serve and who couldn't, based on just the mechanics and the release point of throwing a Nerf football like 10 feet.
Yeah, Abby throws a good spiral. She's playing catch back and forth with baseball, softball, whatever. I mean, she definitely has that. So I just feel like there's, again, just kind of a little bit of a disconnect where maybe some coaching or looking at some technique would help. For me, it's all about turning the shoulders more. I just get too square to the court. I think she kind of does the same. Here's a little bit further down. Abby, we've kind of highlighted some of the mistakes, so I'm not sure whose idea it was, but they start stacking here, and it actually ends up being a good thing. They win a few points this way. When do you decide to stack or unstack, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, I know in tournaments, a lot of times people have predetermined sides, and there are some people even in rec games that stack, or at least stack when they serve because that's their side. But regardless of whether it's a rec game or a tournament, if you're just in a rut and you're stuck on a certain spot, just it doesn't hurt to just stack just to mix it up. Or maybe you get a scenario where this person's eating me up cross court, or I don't want that person in front of me because they're speeding up right at me. It doesn't hurt whether you're the normal left side player or right side player to just mix it up if like I said you're stuck, or for whatever reason the way the points are playing out really aren't going your way.
I did want to note this here in the middle of this point here. Watch kind of as it plays out. There's a couple balls that are dug out. Sally and Abby, again, are a little back too far, but Abby does a really nice job here as she's starting to come up, and Sally did not come with her. What I really liked, and Abby needs to do this more when she's on the right, but she does this on the left side, is this ball's coming by. She could have reached out and gotten it. She started to, but she realized it's a little too far, and she let Sally take it then. And she was able to, I think, did they eventually win this point? Maybe not. No, they didn't. But I love that of being ready to go, but realizing when it's not your time to go after that ball.
Yeah, there were two good things. The first thing you highlighted, Abby saw Sally's ball and anticipated it bouncing. So that was one time where she did get in to try and put a little more pressure on Peggy and Jen. And then unlike the last time when she kind of dug at something with her backhand, even though it was her forehand, I think she realized she was just probably going to hit off the head guard of her paddle, or she wasn't going to get good contact with the ball. She wisely let it go, knowing that Sally was back there because they were in a defensive position. So allowing the ball to go to the deep person was the smarter play.
Just so I can stay on the compliment bandwagon, since I've been a little hard on my wife here, but I thought she did a great job on this point of having her paddle up, ready to go. Note, she's at the kitchen line, seesaw, ball is down, so her paddle's up a little bit. And then actually Jen is kind of attacking, but Abby's paddle is up. It's neutral, so then whether this comes forehand or backhand, she's going to be able to get it. It comes backhand and her paddle is up. She's ready to go, and she splits them and puts one right in the middle of the court for the win.
Yep, so that was good. Nice job. That was a good spot. And if you want to roll it back just a hair to the point where Jen attacks, and I'm bringing this up because I think Jen said something along those lines. I played with her a couple times that day. Jen's arm is like fully extended when she's attacking, so she doesn't quite have maybe the pop that she wanted on her attack. She's leaning forward, arms fully extended, and by the time the ball gets there, there's not a lot of oomph behind it to maybe smoke it past Abby, or she loses a little velocity on her shot by being a little overextended. So it wasn't a bad idea, but I think maybe going a little more placement and keeping it lower on Abby, still going down the line was a good idea, I think, but having it a little bit lower versus trying to hit it past her when she wasn't in a position where she could really leverage everything and put a little something behind it.
Yeah. So pace, again, if she would have just taken a little bit off of the pace, then she could have maybe hit that for a winner instead of having the response come back as a winner on her.
Yeah, a winner, or maybe it's a pop up because Abby's loaded up with two hands ready to drive it, and all of a sudden it's off speed at her knees or off the bounce.
So Kareem, Abdul, Abby, right here. You liked this little sky hook that she did, huh?
Yeah, actually,
even though she missed it in the net.
Yeah, I like the idea that even though Abby's mobility is one of her strong suits, and running back and playing this lob off the bounce wouldn't have been an issue, but because Peggy's like 2 steps behind the baseline and Jen's maybe just in front of the baseline, if she's able to get it back and get it back at least like middle of the court, Sally's holding her ground up at the kitchen line or close to it. They still might be able to like kind of maintain their superior positioning of being the team that's up versus having to give ground and be back.
Yeah. So if she lets that bounce, then she's effectively hitting the third shot dropped in. So again, if you can get to the lob, try to get it in the court, even if it's kind of a weak sky hook, that's going to at least keep your position a little better.
Yep. Something to work on. Like I said, I think it was the right idea. Just it wasn't executed, and it's not something you get a chance to practice. It's not like you get to practice a sky hook or two every game. It's just kind of a shot that comes up periodically that, once again, is kind of good to have in your tool bag, or at least an idea of what you want to do with it.
Yeah. This is maybe one of the top 2 or 3 points of the match as well. Again, note them coming in on this one. Sally was already kind of starting to sneak in. She's reading Abby's shot. Abby's momentum is bringing her forward as she drops it. They're both getting up to the line, and voila, we're into a dink game. Haven't seen a ton of those. So then dinking back and forth, and just to highlight, Abby's does a nice job of moving it around to set up the put away. Really, really well done here. It's kind of a classic pickleball point there.
Yeah, she had Jen pulled wide, and then she went middle to Jen, and even though it's Jen's forehand, Jen really didn't get a chance to kind of set her feet and hit that, and the dink got popped up, and Abby was there to pounce and put it away down the middle. And it was another thing I think I liked. It was very little backswing. Good follow through, very little backswing, because that's just really like a high volley. It's not an overhead, so Abby didn't overswing, just a very little backswing and punch through and put it away. So you're not overswinging and increasing the odds of a mistake.
So the paddle really was it was up. I mean, it was kind of like at her shoulder, opposed to coming full back. She's not making a big tennis, C or anything. It's just kind of a little punch shot.
Yep.
Yeah, very nice. Let me go forward again we've talked a little bit. This is right. I already went past it. But we've talked a little bit about poaching. Peggy did a nice job, or Sally did a nice job here of picking off Peggy's drive. So, she knows Peggy's game pretty well. She's probably thinking Peggy's going to be driving this more middle, maybe trying to find that gap. And Sally does a nice job of kind of moving into that space. That would have been a pretty tough dig for Abby on her backhand. And Sally does a nice job of just rolling one right at Jen, kind of attacking her, catching her off guard, and setting up Abby for the put away.
Yeah, that was a good situation for Sally to help out. I wouldn't call it like a full poach where she's like cutting across, but Abby's maybe 2 steps behind her. It's Sally's forehand, so by picking off that ball, it not only protects Abby, but it's going to allow Abby then to get in on the next shot.
Yep. This whole idea again of, we've highlighted quite a bit the issue of Sally and Abby being too far back. I think this is a good example here where their momentum, did I miss it? Maybe I went a little too far. Thought it was on, this was Abby. Yeah. So this is a good example of Abby missing a third. But as I slow it down, watch Abby's weight. She goes flamingo foot on her back foot, and all of her weight is on her back. So two problems with this for me is, number one, it's going to be hard to get it over the net. You're kind of working against your body. She ends up missing it into the net. But even if she gets that over, she's now weight back. She's going to have a hard time getting in a little bit behind it. So the person I always think of who lived around here for a while is Mindy Yoder. She always did such a good job of just kind of continually moving forward. And she was like a vacuum sweeper where everything was in front of her. And I think that's what I'd want to see more of with Abby. You complimented her returns, but same thing with thirds. Stay back on them so that your momentum is bringing you forward so you can hit the shot and, first of all, get it over the net. Second of all, have your momentum bringing you up closer and closer to the kitchen line.
Yeah, that's correct. And it also goes back to kind of the baseball analogy of the outfielder on the tag up. If you can get back on it first and then move forward into your shot, that's the right place to be. Another thing I heard from pro Michelle Esquivel when she was up here for a clinic is live life out in front. So that was kind of going back to your Mindy Yoder reference.
Sure.
If you can keep everything out in front, then you're probably less likely to be falling back, hitting off your back foot, doing the flamingo foot, that sort of thing. If you keep everything out in front.
I like that. Yeah, everything in front of you. You see the court better. That's good. I like that. This was a really good point as well. Again, to compliment Abby, she got her. This is one where you like her taking this ball, even though it's at her ankles, but this is a great example of why you like it, because if she lets that bounce, maybe Peggy comes in a little bit and she brings Peggy in, but she's had that court space. What I liked here, though, I think is a little bit later. Abby does a nice job of moving Jen around. That's what I really like here. That's a tough little dink. And the way she kind of put a little bit of spin on it to find Jen, who's in the middle of the court, then having to move quite far to her left and forces the pop up that then she's able to put away.
Yeah, Jen wasn't in really too bad a position there, even though the ball was down the line to Abby's forehand. Because it was low, Jen can come off that line a little bit because Abby has to go over the high part of the net. I mean, Jen could maybe be one more step to her left, but it was a good shot by Abby. And by pulling Jen over there, it did force the pop up. And, there's really nothing Peggy can do. I mean, Peggy has her left foot probably on the center line at Abby's contact point. She can't come all the way over or else her whole side's empty. So,
yeah, a note here, Jen does get moved a little bit. She's just trying to get to the ball, but if you can get that ball, think about all the space you have cross court, trying to just kind of dump that, reset it in the middle or even cross court. Going down the line here when you're pushed is just going right into Abby's wheelhouse on her forehand side. Try to get that at least more middle.
Yeah, I'd like the reset to be a little more in the middle too. Plus, at the higher levels, you risk a potential Ernie situation too by popping it down the line.
Yeah.
But that's also a good example too of by moving your dinks around can create openings. You don't have to like hit hard to create openings. Just by moving even one person, just a little bit to the middle, move that same person to the sideline, voila, you got an opening down the middle for the highest percentage shot.
Yeah. Not to harp on it, but just to show another example here, Ryan, of Abby not quite getting in. You had some notes on this. This was at 20:08, and you just made note that if Abby was in the correct position, this point would have ended differently.
Yeah, they were slow coming in again, and when Abby hits that high volley, she's standing in the tennis green, which is still a few steps behind the kitchen line. If she's gotten all the way to the kitchen at that point, Now she's playing the ball even higher. She's maybe 2 feet closer to the net. So instead of going to the top of the net, she probably splits Jen and Peggy for a clean winner.
Would you, I probably know the answer to this because I know your game, but would you even say, since she was kind of caught back, would you rather see her reset that than attack it?
Maybe reset's not the word. I mean, maybe a little more conservative, not like a put away swing. Well, you could still even go like hit it flat, but maybe you're aiming now for Jen and Peggy's feet versus trying to like smoke it past them.
Yeah.
You're just trying to get it down, but in a more aggressive, pushy way. So I wouldn't maybe use the word reset in that situation, but it maybe doesn't become as big of a green light ball as it would have been if she's two steps forward.
Yeah. All right, let's look at one more here that we had. I think it was this point right here that might have just played, but look at it again. Again, a pretty good job. That's a tough one. Abby's attacking here. Abby is being attacked by Jen, and I feel like she does a pretty good job of getting set. Is it just credit Jen's placement of being in the middle? But I feel like Abby's body is like moving away from that ball instead of kind of being more set and blocking that back. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. That she's just sliding ever so slightly toward the line, where the line is what she really needs to concede. Because Jen's cross court from her, so Sally's got down the line and a little bit of middle responsibility. Abby's got her two-hander ready, so if she's sitting a little bit more middle rather than maybe leaning toward the line, she can get a little more pop on it, and maybe it goes over.
Yeah. And it's also kind of knowing your opponent too. I mean, if you're playing somebody who has a strong forehand roll in that situation, maybe you do lean a little bit more to the line, but that's not necessarily a strength of Jen's that you think she's going to roll that ball back, to Abby's right-hand side. Agree with that. She could have been sitting a little bit more middle.
But on the last one there, Abby did have her paddle down. Jen just found her feet with it. So, I mean, Abby's positionally was in a good spot for Jen's overhead. Same with that one. She's in a good position. She's got her paddle down, but, sometimes you can only do what you can do.
Match ends in a tough way. You always hate to see that net tip. Sally really couldn't do much with this. But just kind of even to highlight my initial point as well, and that Abby and I talk about quite a bit, is I know it's not a whole lot of time to react, but if you can let this ball bounce and try to reset it, take a step back. It's just even just open up your body. It's not even a step back, but just dropping your right foot instead of trying to take that off the volley. Not a whole lot of time to react, but
yeah, in that situation too, the ball was more in the red zone below her knees, and I think when it becomes in the red zone like that's a situation where you're going to want to let it bounce rather than take it out of the air, because I think you're just asking for a pop-up sometimes.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, come back to just the two of us. So yeah, a lot to look at there. I think there was a lot of good. The things that I thought, looking specifically at Abby's game, was her dinking, the way she moved it around when they got into the dink game. The issue was getting into the dink game, right? That was kind of like the number one thing that we would say is trying to move in together. Actually, Abby and Sally are playing in a tournament this weekend, so it'll be interesting to see how they do, and if they can take some of the things that we talked about. We'll share it with them before this airs and see if it gives them any insight. But moving in together is really something I think would help their collective games elevate quite a bit.
Yeah, and honestly, and you can't control your partner in doubles. I mean, you can talk and have some strategy points in mind, but regardless, if they're able to come in together, or if your partner gets caught deep, when the third or the fifth or the seventh's not going to you, if you can squeeze in just a little bit, that does tighten the window for your opponents and maybe puts a little bit more pressure on them versus if you're both standing back behind the baseline. I mean, it's a free pass for your opponents to just roll any sort of loopy, sloppy shot back to you with depth, and there's no pressure on them, and it keeps you back.
Right. And we teach at the beginning levels but it translates, pros do it without even really thinking, but kind of trying to stay as much as possible. We always talk about like a rope connecting you at the hip, that you should be kind of moving in together. And when those, levels get off, it creates gaps that people can attack, especially a strong forehand player like Peggy, who can really, roll those to some hard places. That's why we saw a lot in that game of both Jen and Peggy finding middle, and, Abby making some good decisions, some poor decisions on, do I take this ball or do I let it go back to Sally, who's a little bit behind me.
Yep.
All right. Any other highlights or takeaways from looking that over?
No, I mean, that's about one of my biggest takeaways was just the positioning. I mean, that can be so helpful. So obviously the closer you are to the net, the easier the shot is.
Absolutely. So yeah, just one more thing to talk about is just Abby's paddle position. Just to end on a good note, I thought throughout she had really good position being at the line. It was up. She was ready to go. You highlighted a couple times when they were being attacked more in the transition zone. She was kind of in that more volleyball position. She was down and ready to dig it out. So something all our listeners could work on as well.
Yep. Sounds good.
All right. Well, hey, you're going to go jump on the courts here.
Yep.
So I'm a little jealous, but thanks for joining us again. And we will do another one of these again. HoosierPickleball@gmail.com is where you can send your videos, and Ryan and I will look through the good, the bad, and the ugly, and tell you how we think you can improve your game. So, Ryan, thanks again.
All right. See you out there soon.
All right. We'll see you soon. Thanks for joining us on Bang Dink Ow. This has been session 2. We'll see you next time.
As always, we want to thank our sponsors, Hoosier Pickleball, Drive Alive Indiana, Pickleball Rocks, Ace Pickleball, and Wheelan Real Estate. Reach out to Abby B for all your buying, selling, investing, and other real estate needs. In addition, a big thank you to the Ace Pickleball Studio in the world-famous Spiece Fieldhouse. Please make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts or find us on YouTube at One More Game Pod. That's the number 1 More Game Pod. Hit that subscribe button and be sure to leave us a 5-star rating to help us spread the love. You can also find us on Facebook and TikTok at Hoosier Pickleball for all kinds of fun tips, tricks, and other family shenanigans. Thanks again for listening, and we will see you next time.